Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Lily Reads. In today's video, we have my August wrap up. These are all of the books that I read in August. I had a pretty solid reading month when it came to August as far as quantity. I read almost every single book that I wanted to read in August, but when it came to quality, I don't think it was really all that great. I actually kind of read myself into a reading slump. I was reading so many mediocre books that I think I got into a reading slump, but let's just go through them. I do not want to keep you long. So we can start with the Lily Reads book club for August, which was When the Vibe is Right by Sarah Das. So in this book, we are following a character named Tess. She is from Trinidad, and basically her family owns a business where they make costumes for Carnival, and they have a rival business that they kind of go up against. This new rival business is hip. It has influencers who promote it. Everybody wants to wear their stuff, and Tess is trying to keep her family business alive, and she wants more people to buy their clothes so one day she can work for the family business. Well, Tess has an enemy at her school. His name is Brandon, and she finds out that Brandon is working for the rival company. He's going to be one of the people who promotes the rival company's clothes, and she's just like, I can't stand you. But quickly, Brandon finds out that this rival company is corrupt, and he asks Tess if he can help her uncle, who owns her family's business, if he can help her get his family business back to its glory days. So this is about how Tess and Brandon have to work together to try to save her family's business. I really enjoy this book. I just love a book where the band comes together, where everyone comes together for a cause and goes on a journey, and that's what this book is. This book was very interesting when it came to the culture of Carnival, the Trinidad, and everything that goes on in Trinidad. I just enjoyed being dropped into this world. These two characters had such great banter, and this one worked for me. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. So that was a win for the Lily Reads book club, and we don't always have wins. The next book that I read was The Summer of Skinny Dipping by Amanda House. This is a book that was published in 2010, and in this book, we are following a girl who is from Georgia, but she is going to spend the summer with her family. Her family lives in New York, and they vacation in the Hamptons. She has a very rich aunt and uncle. Hamptons house. She goes up there. She usually enjoys spending time with her aunt and uncles and cousins, but this year things are different. Her aunt and uncle have been arguing. Her parents have been arguing, and she notices that her cousins have kind of grown up without her. Her cousins seem to be into all the, things that older kids are into, and she's just not quite there yet. So she gets to the Hamptons and quickly realizes things aren't what they used to be. Well, she meets this boy, and they start a summer fling, and that is The Summer of Skinny Dipping. I told you guys this book is from 2010. It reads like a 2010 book. Am I happy I read it? Sure. It was very much a blast from the past, going back in time and reading young YA. I enjoy doing that, and so I enjoyed my time in this book. But of course, this book is not for me. I'm too grown for this book, so there's nothing I could really get from this book outside of nostalgia. So to rate it would be just silly. But yeah, I read it, and I'm happy that I read it, but nothing more than that, right? The next book we have is a book that was not in a video. This is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Matar. So in this book, we are following two characters who are almost at opposite sides of time. They keep missing each other. They keep not being able to get in contact with each other, and they communicate with each other via notes. And through these notes, they have been able to build a relationship, a romantic relationship. And that's pretty much what this book is. I am going to say it, and y'all can drag me in the comments. This book was not for me. I did not enjoy my time reading this book. And the thing is, if I would have known what this book was fully about going into this book, I would have known this book is not for me. Number one, flowery writing. I am not the flowery type of writing, almost overly romantic type of writing. That is never my thing. I never really enjoy books like that. Another thing you guys know I'm hit or miss with, time travel. I don't really like playing with time travel. types of things. Another thing I don't really like stories being told via notes, like notes back and forth. That is not really my type of thing. Another thing I do not like, science elements. I do not like trying to understand scientific elements, not for me. And then lastly, I do not like overly romantic type of books where like what you're supposed to take away from it is like the romance of life in front of you. That is not my thing. And so all of those things is what this book has going for it. And so I just didn't enjoy my reading experience, which I know a lot of people like this one. And I can see why a lot of people like this one. It's just not for me. So I ended up giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. I'm so sorry. I know. Maybe at another time in my life, there are books that I read and I'm like, I understand why this book is liked. And maybe at another time in my life, I could really enjoy that book. But to Kenya today, it's just not my type of book. And I can't force myself to like a book that I simply don't like. Can't come lie to you, can I? So now we have Claire Cotto with Woman Eating. So in this book, we are following a woman who is a vampire, and she is on her own for the first time. She has put her mother in an elderly home, and now this is the first time where she has to try to live her life on her own as a vampire. She moves into this community space and she meets different people, and her goal is to become an artist. So she takes an internship at an art gallery. She meets some sketchy people, and basically this is called Woman Eating because the entire book is about a woman trying to eat. She is trying to get blood and trying to figure out how she's going to get blood to be able to survive. I enjoyed the suspense element from this book. This was a fun reading experience. Every single page, I wanted to know what was going to happen next, how this was going to go. But I will say overall, the character didn't really do anything for me. The world wasn't really established. It was just hard for me to care about anything going on. I wanted to know. Curiosity was there, but care was not. And so you guys know, I am a person who loves nice, juicy characters doing interesting things, and I think this character was doing interesting things. Interesting enough, I can follow characters, just walking around living life, but the characters got to be good, and I don't think any of the characters in this book were all that good. So overall, 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was a memoir by Chanel Miller called Know My Name. Chanel Miller is the victim of Brock Turner. Brock Turner sexually assaulted her on the Stanford campus, and notoriously Brock Turner only served 3 months in jail for doing that. And so basically in this memoir, Chanel Miller tries to reclaim her own story and also claim her name, because when all of this stuff happened, she was known as Emily Doe because, they didn't want to publish her name. Well, in this, she comes out and says her name is Chanel Miller, and she tells her story, and that is this. Memoirs like this always are going to matter. You want to know the thing that I think is done really well in this memoir? This idea of how the criminal justice system makes you a victim again. The criminal justice system puts you through the ringer just as much as the things that have happened to you. No matter what has happened to you, the criminal justice system is once again going to make sure you are as uncomfortable as possible. And that's what I loved about this the most. Chanel Miller talks about the many ways in which, yes, the thing that happened to her, and that was incredibly tragic, but also after that, everything she went through during the criminal justice and things that could be prevented, people claim to care, and all of the stuff that could be prevented, how we are failed by the systems that are in place. That's what I thought was interesting. But yeah, I read Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Another thing that I read was L. Kennedy's off-campus series. So you have The Score, you have The Mistake, you have The Deal. The order is The Deal, The Mistake, and The Score. That's the order. And then there's one more book in this series, but I did not read it. So in this book, you are following basically a group of hockey players and the girls who date them. That's pretty much all it is. In The Deal, you have 2 people who, what do they even make a deal about? Okay, so in this book, you have a deal. One of them wants to be tutored. The hockey player wants to be tutored, and Hannah wants a guy to notice her, so she wants to show that she's hip and cool because she's with a hockey player. That is them. This is my favorite one of the 3. I think I give this book 3.5 stars. Then you have The Mistake. Okay, so in this book we have The Mistake. This is about this girl who is just like this wallflower. She's a virgin and all this stuff. There's this hockey guy. He sleeps with everybody. And basically they accidentally end up like, you know, hooking up. Then he does something to piss her off. And so basically she gives him the list of all this stuff he needs to do to get her back. I did not like this one. I don't even remember half the stuff that happened in this book. This one definitely gets 2 out of 5 stars. And the last one we have is The Score. This book, you have like the playboy of the hockey team, and you have this girl who has been in a relationship for a very long time. These two people end up being together, but you have this dynamic of like, ooh, school's about to end. It's senior year. I already had a boyfriend. My boyfriend wants me back. Other guy, he's a playboy. That's kind of how all of that stuff works. That's their dynamic. Overall, I am very happy that I can say that I read these books, but like, did they add anything to my life? I do not think so, and I'm going back and forth on if I am going to unhaul them. The only reason why I wouldn't unhaul them is because these books got a cover change, but I think my sister also owns these books, and I just don't think we both need to own these books. So I probably will unhaul them. Right. Should I? You tell me. I don't know. Let's go to some books I know I am going to be unhauling. There are 3 books that I am definitely going to unhaul. The first book is Home Before Dark. I will insert the cover of this book. I bought this book secondhand and it did not come with a cover. So this is by Riley Sager. Once again, Riley Sager has done me wrong. So in this book, we are following a girl who basically, after the death of her father, she is going to figure out what her father was honest about and what her father lied about. Her father wrote a story, a haunted house story. And basically he said that the house that they grew up in, well, she grew up in, was haunted and crazy things happened. A bunch of people bought the book. A bunch of people believed the story, but she has never believed the story. She has never believed the story because she does not believe that things are haunted, things could be haunted. Now, throughout her entire life, her mom and dad have always told her, do not go back to that house. Do not go back to that house no matter what you do. Do not look into it. Why would you do that? Do not do it. But she's like, daddy dead and I'm gonna go do what I want to do. Her mom's still alive and her mom is still telling her, do not look into this house. Well, this book is told with us reading the story and also getting the girl back at the house. And so we're trying to figure out what happened at the house. Why did your father write this story? Was it really haunted? What's going on? I always told you guys, it feels like Riley Sager is bullshitting me. Every Riley Sager book that I read just feels like a bunch of bullshit. Like, he's throwing a bunch of things in a book and like to the untrained eye, you could find it compelling. But if you just strip back a layer of what's going on, you realize this is a bunch of mess. This book does something that really pissed me off. It's the same thing he did in, what's that other book, Survive the Night, where like, he winks at the audience and goes like, yeah, this can kind of be silly. And you're supposed to be like, well, he at least acknowledges that this is kind of silly. So that's okay. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to acknowledge that, hey, your plot kind of sucks. And because you acknowledged it, I'm supposed to be okay with it. This book does this thing where it's like, yeah, everything kind of ended conveniently, but that's okay. Like, no, that's not how you're supposed to do it. Another thing you guys keep letting Riley Sager get away with, explaining the entire plot at the end of the book, instead of the book just happening and you just seeing stuff in front of you, Riley Sager gets to explain the entire plot at the end of the book and you guys just go for it. You guys are just like, yeah, great, round of applause. Why do you guys allow Riley Sager to be the hack? I don't get it. I honestly think there's some misogyny in it. I'm going to be really honest. I think if Riley Sager was a woman and Riley Sager was a woman and writing the books that Riley Sager was writing, you guys would not be as kind to them. At this point, I read Survive the Night, Final Girls, which I think is a perfectly fine book. What other books? I read this one. I read Lock Every Door. And then I read another one. That's the one that came out last year. I read that one too. And all of them are bad to me. All of them have the same exact issue. I said it in the video where I read the Riley Sager book last year. It feels like Riley Sager is constantly bullshitting me and being like, knowing they're giving me something that isn't that good, that isn't that complex, like, and y'all just take it because. But I'm like, why do you guys give Riley Sager the benefit of the doubt in the same way you guys don't give anybody else the benefit of the doubt? You guys are just like, that was fun, and it's just like, no, like this isn't good thriller writing ever. And so I'm giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. No, none of it is good. It's not a good haunted house story. It's not a good thriller. It's none of those things. It's not a good book, and I'm sick of it. So yeah, obviously I'm unhauling that book. And once again, I still will not be buying any more Riley Sager. These are books that I just already own when I thought there was a world in which I would like Riley Sager books. Like Lock Every Door is a Get Out knockoff. Like everything just seems like a knockoff of something. And that's why at least with Final Girls, I found Final Girls to at least be original. There was something original about Survive the Night. Don't get me started on that goddamn mess. And then the last book I read from him, I'll put it up here, like, it was just silly. Like, that's like Riley Sager books either, like, they just become silly. I'm sorry, I'm dragging Riley Sager, and that ain't what keep writing books as long as y'all enjoy them. I'm just telling you, it ain't for me. 30 Things I Love About Myself is about this girl who gets locked up in jail. She gets a book from one of the workers at jail, and she's reading it in her cell, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna write down 30 things I love about myself. That leads her on a journey of realizing she don't love 30 things about herself, but she's going to try to. This book is not good. This book is not good. The main character of this book is honestly insufferable, like honestly insufferable. And this book tries to straddle that line of being serious and being a little fun and wacky, but I don't think it does either of those two things well. And so 2 out of 5 stars, not for me, gonna unhaul it. Last book I'm definitely going to unhaul is Donut Fall in Love. In this book, we are following a guy who is an actor, and he is going on a baking show, and we are following a girl who owns a bakery, and basically they run into each other, have a bad encounter, but he kind of like hits it off, like he kind of likes her. So he's like, what if I get her to teach me how to bake before I go on this baking show? That starts their romance. There's a lot of like personal things going on in their background that is actually quite interesting, but overall, this is one of those books that I know I just never need to read again. I'm not really unhauling it because it was terrible. It's just one of those books I don't need to read again because it was kind of boring, you know? You got tired of being in the world. It's just like, I've had enough. Okay, we still have more books to go over. The next book we have is Hot Stew by Fiona Mosley. In this book, we are following an evil, corrupt developer. She has decided she is going to buy this apartment building in Soho, but first she got to get the prostitutes out of it. There are some prostitutes in this building that she wants to get out of. And in this, we follow different characters that interact around this apartment building. Different people inside this world, different people in Soho. You have drug dealers, you have addicts, you have prostitutes, you have rich people, you have developers. It is all different types of people. I pretty much have read this book twice at this point, and I still don't get it. I still don't fully get this book. I almost want to say this book is too smart for me, but I don't like to give that cop out because like I can understand a book. I just don't fully get this book. Like I think that there's like the story you're getting, and then there's like an underbelly of a story that you're supposed to get, but like I'm not in on the joke. I'm not in on it, so I don't get it. But this is a book I'll definitely revisit again because there were some interesting things about it. I think the thing that lacks for me are the characters. The characters are kind of stock characters. You got evil landlord, you know, drug dealer. Like everyone just is very like, and there's nothing necessarily interesting about any of them, you know? So I am going to give this book 3 out of 5 stars, but I'm curious about that. I enjoyed it. So the next book we have is Hester. In this book, we are following a character named Hester who has abilities. She sees colors. The colors that she sees represent things in her life. So she has these powers, but everyone has told her to keep these powers a secret because this is the time of the Salem witch trial. This is the time of like women are witches and all of this type of stuff. Women just can't be out here saying they all have all different types of powers. Well, she has gone over on a boat to Salem. So she is now living in Salem, and basically she wants to start her life. She has a husband who is a drug addict, and she quit quickly finds a guy in the town who she hits it off with. And this is kind of about their relationship and how that relationship unfolds. This is loosely like based on the Scarlet Letter. It's kind of weird to explain this book, and I think this book is interesting at times. The thing that doesn't work for me the most about this book, honestly, was the magic element, was this idea of seeing colors and seeing words. That didn't really, a little too woo-woo for me to really grasp it, but I did enjoy like the contemporary elements of this book and the romance elements and the stuff that came along with that. So overall, I'm going to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. That's pretty much what it's about. I explained it horribly, but that's what it is about. The next book we have is Ghosted. This book is about a woman who has been married for 12 years, and one day she comes home and realizes her husband did not come home. And she takes about a week, maybe 2 weeks, to report that he's missing. And so in that time, she is basically trying to figure out, why would her husband just up and leave her? And did her husband up and leave her, or is he dead? That is what Ghosted is about. This book was a lot more grounded than I expected it to be, and I really enjoyed my reading experience of this book. This book is, at the root of it, is a marriage story. It's a story about love and how people grow apart from one another. The thing that didn't work for me with this book, that'll keep it at a 4 and not a 5, maybe a 3.75, is I think the main character of this book is poorly written. I think a stronger main character could really drive this book home. So yeah, but 3.75 for this one. Another book that I actually really enjoyed was The Bookshop of Second Chances. So in this book, we are following a woman who has just been cheated on by her husband. Her husband cheated on her with her best friend. And so quickly, when she's packing up her stuff, she gets a letter and finds out that her uncle has left her a house. She doesn't really know this uncle, but he left her a house. So she goes to check out this house. And when she goes to check out this house, she meets a lot of people in the town. And that leads her to this bookstore because her uncle had a bunch of rare books that she wants to sell for money because she needs some money. And so she meets this guy named Edward who owns this bookshop of rare books, and that kind of starts their relationship. I said this in the video about this book, but this book had one of the best romance dynamics that I enjoyed Edward, and I enjoyed how they were kind of really cold to each other, very blunt with each other. It just really worked for me. These characters had baggage, they had damage. This worked way more than I thought it would. There were times where I thought this book was a little bit boring. And another thing that I didn't like about this book, that's going to keep it at like a 4 for me, is this is called The Bookshop of Second Chances. This book really doesn't have anything to do with the bookshop, and I do think the reason, and I usually don't even like books about bookshops, but I do think there's some world building not done that needs to be done. It almost felt like these characters were secluded and off to themselves, and it didn't feel like we were part of this robust world, so that didn't work. But I still am gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I did enjoy was Reprieve by James Han Matson. So in this book, we are following a cast of characters, and all these characters come together because something is going to lead all of them into this haunted house. There is a haunted house that basically no one has been able to complete. If you complete it, you can get money. It's almost like an escape room. It's not a haunted, it's like an escape room. If you complete it, you can get money, but this escape room tests the bounds of what an escape room is. It's scary, people touch you, people hit you, you can be shocked and all of this stuff. And we know that something bad is going to happen in this escape room. But we go back in time to meet all of these characters before they get to the escape room. And that's kind of what this book is. This book is actually, I think, this is one of those books I think you have to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to really get how great this book is. When I logged it on Goodreads, I said, if I read this book again, I would probably give it 5 stars. And I think it's true. I think the subtle nuances of this book haven't even truly resonated with me. But the thing I love the most about this book is actually ahead of its time. The way that this book almost forecasts how we will be as a society in today, with the way certain people are pandered to that get them to do terrible things, to think terrible things, the way other people treat each other, the way certain men treat women in society, what we really see around us right now in the political scape, in the way we treat each other. I think it's so good. I think this book actually is almost sees the future. adventure. It's that good. And each character is so good. We get into the world of all of these characters. They're all so good. And yeah, the way this all is, I think this book has a low Goodreads score. And I think that's unfortunate. I really, really think that it is unfortunate. This book talks about the relationship between Black people and Asian people, this idea of being a model minority, all of this stuff. I think this book has so many things going for it, and I think more people should pick up this book. This book is still really good. I think this book will be better now than when it came out. Anyways, I am done. I am done. Those are the books that I read in August. Yeah, let's on to September. Hopefully we get some better reads in September. I'll talk to you guys later.